What's up everyone, it's Colin from GIY Guy here, and today we're talking about winterization, how to winterize your garden. I was kind of surprised last week because it was like kind of in the mid 30s, low 40s, and I was like, oh no, I didn't prepare for winter. But then today is like high of 65, and so it's been a really beautiful week, and so it looks like I'll have a second chance to get out and winterize my garden a little bit. So this is the first time I've shown my garden. This is it, as I said in the first video. This is like a really new garden. I just started it last year, and so it's not the prettiest thing in the world. The border is kind of half done. I actually had a really janky fence built just to keep the deer out, but I actually took that down since it's winter and it didn't look very nice. So my garden is kind of it's about probably 7 or 8 feet wide by about 22 feet long, and right now most of what you see is just somewhat of a ground cover. It's just a lot of little weeds that instead of tilling up, I decided to just let them grow and kind of cover the garden for when it gets cold. It's a lot better than just having dirt exposed, because then you kind of get, if it rains, it just washes the nutrients away, and then it just helps keep the ecosystem in the soil a little more active. I actually did plant two things just a couple weeks ago. I planted the garlic over here. You might be able to see it. I'll zoom in a minute. So I planted garlic, and then also some onion bulbs. So those are supposed to be planted in the September to November time frame. That way you can prepare for winter, and then once springtime comes, then you know, they kind of get a head start because they'll start growing once the ground warms up enough. But anyway, today I'm talking about garden winterization. So how can you prepare your garden for spring in the best way possible? So really there's two types of winterization methods. The first is to use dead material like straw, grass clippings, or leaves. It's a great time of year to use leaves as a ground cover just because you have a lot of them. I would recommend that you mulch them before you put them on your garden, just because full leaves they cover the ground really well, but so well that moisture actually doesn't get to the soil as well. But they do the job for winter if you're going to till them in the spring. I actually went with the straw route. So straw is also super cheap. You know, everyone's using it for hay rack rides, and then they give it away for free at the end of October. And then I think I paid $4 a bale for mine. I already put some on the blackberry patch up the hill, which actually hasn't been started yet, but I'm just prepping it for spring. So yeah, you have straw, grass clippings, leaves, and then you can even go, if you wanted to go more extreme, you could do like wood chips. I personally am not a fan of wood chips just because they're kind of hard to work with. You know, once you put them down, then you have to open up a spot when you're ready to plant. But I'm sure they do a great job of keeping the weeds out. The second option you can use is actually a live ground cover, and so this is like a cover crop. Some really good cover crops are, you can use like winter beans and peas, things that are kind of cold hardy down to 20 degrees or so. You can plant leafy veggies. You can plant things like radishes. There's even some types of clover you can plant. I personally grew up with a dad who was he was crazy about his yard and he spent so much money trying to kill the clover in his yard. And so just seeing how hard it was for him to kill the clover, I was kind of skeptical of the idea of putting clover in the garden, because I don't want it to take over. I'm sure there's different varieties of clover that you can plant, but I didn't want to risk it. So one that I actually read about was hairy vetch, and I didn't know about it until I read some articles, but I'll throw a picture on the screen so you can see what it is. But actually, it's a ground cover that really vines together, and it almost forms kind of a carpet. And then it pulls the best part about it is it pulls nitrogen from the air while it's growing and stores it in its roots. And so actually in the spring, when you go to plant your garden, then this tangled mess is on top of your garden, and you can actually cut it off at the roots, cut it off right at ground level, and then you can just roll up this. It's like a rug. I haven't actually tried it, but that would be a pretty cool option. And then all that nitrogen that's stored in the roots just slowly releases into your garden over time. And so, in my opinion, it seems like a better option than, you know, the NPK fertilizer that's just kind of a quick fix for your garden. So this would be like a natural, slow release nitrogen fertilizer for your garden. So those are really the main options. You can plant a dead ground cover, or you can plant a live ground cover. To be honest, I don't know a lot about ground covers. I just did a little bit of research. If you want to do some research and find a good live ground cover, then great, have at it. I didn't really plan ahead enough to plant the ground cover, but that's why I just kind of left what was growing here. And so today when I go to cover it with straw, I'm actually just going to cover everything. You know, it's not quite thick enough to really protect the garden during the winter time. And so I'm just going to cover it all with straw. And if it keeps growing under there, great. But I'm going to put probably an inch of straw on top of it, so I don't think it'll grow much. But all these plants that are in the garden right now will be covered by the straw, and they'll probably die. But then all those nutrients will stay in the soil. So it's a lot better than just tilling it up or something. I'm going to go ahead and put hay on the garden. Before I do, there's going to be about a 3 foot by 3 foot patch here where I planted my garlic, which I don't know if you can see it from that distance, but it's doing pretty well already. It's already popped up about 5 or 6 inches. And then I also have some onion bulbs I planted. I got 3 rows of those here. And so I won't put straw around that, inside that 3 foot square. I'm gonna wait for the onions to pop up a little bit before I do that, so I don't cover them up. So yeah, as you do this, if you have enough hay, the best way to do it is to put about 2 inches of hay on your ground. You want to make sure that you can't see the dirt through the hay. That way you can get a really solid blanket over top of it to keep the ground temperature a little bit warmer, a little better regulated in the wintertime. And also it'll keep any weeds from growing through in the springtime when you get ready to plant. So it'll also make your life, a ground cover will also make your life easier. Well, a dead ground cover will make your life easier come springtime, because then maybe you can just hoe it into the dirt, or maybe it'll be kind of disintegrated by then, or you can just leave the ground cover there and just kind of brush away a strip for where you want to plant. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I don't know if I have 2 inches worth of hay to cover this whole area, but I'm gonna go ahead and even it out the best I can and make it as thick as I can. Well, there we go. I'm really actually impressed that those 2 bales went so far. This is about probably close to 150 to 170 square foot, and I only used about 1 3/4 bales. I used about 1/4 of one for the blackberries. But sorry, I'm breathing heavy. That was a little bit of work. So I did get to do about 2 inches deep all the way across. I did plant a row of some tulips and some anemones, just some flowers at the end. I tried not to cover those too much. I don't really have a lot of experience with ground covers, and so I didn't want to block the sprouts or anything come springtime. I'm not really sure how that works. I don't know how strong they are when they push out of the ground. I'll go ahead and walk you through the garden. Yep, so this is how it turned out. The ground covers were really thick. You can't really see anything through that straw, and that is only a little less than 2 bales, so I'm pretty impressed. This is the spot I said I was going to leave empty. I didn't want to cover this, so these stakes here, these three are actually going to be, they're going to be onions. And then here, I actually have some garlic coming up already. That's pretty cool. They're like 5 or 6 inches already. It only took like maybe 2 weeks for them to start sprouting. They just took off. I was really happy with that. Yeah, and then it made it all the way over here. So this strip here is kind of where the flowers are gonna grow. That's also, you can see how janky this raised bed is. That's actually a piece of a telephone pole I found in the woods. And then this is a pallet. Obviously, I was driving home from work yesterday and it was on the side of the road on the exit I took. And so I was like, yes, please. And so I actually stopped and got out of my car and picked it up on the side of the road and brought it home. So I've seen some pretty cool raised garden beds done with pallets. So I guess I'll just start my collection now, and if I have enough, or once I have enough, then I'll probably build a raised garden bed around the blackberry trellis. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode on garden winterization. I had no idea how to do any of this stuff. As I said, this is a new garden, and the best part of this channel is that I'm brand new to all this. I can experience it all brand new with you. You can see what I try and what doesn't work. I'll share with you like my experiments, my mistakes, but this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm super excited to even learn about something like ground covering. Also, with the no-till method, I had no idea it was bad to till your garden. My dad tilled his garden for my whole life, and I never knew any different. And so I learned plenty of things off of YouTube. I'm always open to learn more. If you have a critique of what I just did, throw it in the comments. I'd love to chat about it. But yeah, it's probably still pretty nice where you are. Maybe, I mean, it's like November here. Well, it's November everywhere, but it's like 65 here. And so you might have enough time to get a ground cover going before it gets too cold. Highly recommend it. If you haven't done it yet, go ahead and get outside. It'll be a huge benefit come springtime, especially if you do something like this, because you're not going to have to go and till all the weeds up or pull them or whatever you decide to do. This ground cover will pretty much keep it pretty clear for when you go to plant in the spring. With that, I hope you enjoy the video, so get outside and grow it yourself.